She awoke in a new life with a doctor, yet memories of her ex revealed an incredible truth. Sarah blinked against the morning light streaming through the window, the warmth of Jake's presence beside her an unfamiliar comfort. She had always been dedicated to her work as a nurse, but now she found herself wrapped in the chaotic yet magnetic aura of an ambitious doctor. Thoughts of her past snaked through the corners of her mind, particularly David, the man who had left her behind for the allure of music stardom. The weight of that loss pressed against her heart as she rose and prepared for another day. Each time she donned her scrubs, the implications of her life choices loomed large. She had sacrificed her dreams to care for her family. Now, despite Jake's bright smile and dreams that seemed endless, doubt gnawed at her. Could she open her heart again? Was it possible to let go of her past? At the diner later that morning, she sipped her coffee, her gaze drifting to an adjacent table. Two patrons were engrossed in their conversation, mentioning David's newfound fame, and she couldn't help but listen. They spoke of the secrets overshadowing his success. Tales of betrayal intertwining with her own family's history rolled through her mind like distant thunder. Each revelation felt like a betrayal of her trust, unraveling the reality she'd constructed around herself. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each sip of coffee, Sarah felt the tension in her chest tighten. Loyalty to her family pulled her in one direction, while a burgeoning love for Jake tugged her into an abyss of uncertainty. Could she confront her family's hidden truths without tearing apart everything she had come to know? She couldn't fathom confronting Jake with the echoes of David's past, but the weight of those lingering embarrassments became impossible to ignore. The warmth of nostalgia quickly turned chilly as evening approached, casting shadows over her thoughts. Wandering the familiar halls of her childhood home felt daunting, the attic's dark corners hiding forgotten memories. Sifting through old photographs, her hands trembled as she uncovered a letter revealing ties between David and her family that she could hardly comprehend. Instead of finding closure, she felt a whirlwind of emotions. The deep-rooted secrets she discovered only intensified her internal turmoil. Did her love for Jake stand a chance if past grievances demanded justice? Could she step into the light with Jake while still tethered to the shadows of her ex-fiancé? As Sarah closed her eyes against the reality of her world, fighting back overwhelming waves of doubt and pain, uncertainty pierced through her resolve. She realized she was standing at the crossroads of heartbreak and hope, grappling with the implications of unveiling the truths hidden within her family's history. The question loomed in her mind: would exposing those secrets shatter her chance at love or help her find a path toward healing? With her heart racing and thoughts spiraling, Sarah knew she had to confront the shadows of her past. But as she began to reach for her phone to call Jake, a fresh crisis ignited within her. The very secrets she longed to understand could unravel the fragile happiness she had begun to build, and in that instant, a deep sense of dread gripped her. Would the act of seeking truth lead to freedom or more chains binding her to her history? Sarah paced her small apartment, feeling the walls close in around her. With every step, the remnants of the letter she had found brewed a storm of conflicting emotions within her. The possibilities swirled like autumn leaves in a gust of wind. Could the revelations change everything she thought she knew about herself, about her family, about love? The thought of calling Jake plagued her, his supportive demeanor promising safety unlike anything she had experienced before. Yet the weight of the secrets churned in her gut, constricting her words like a vice. What would she say? How could she explain the entanglement of betrayal and love linked to an old flame who was now a star? She needed clarity, and as the evening deepened, the tension between past and present increased. Her hands fluttered to her desk, tracing the edges of her nursing certification framed in a polished wooden frame. The dates printed on the document represented a decade of unwavering commitment to healthcare, a path chosen in defiance of uncertainty and pain. Each hour of work had brought her solace, serving others while pushing her own demons aside, but now, as she stood on the precipice of potential heartache, Sarah wondered whether her career had also been a means of escape. What if she could channel the same dedication she poured into her nursing into healing her own heart? Her revelation sparked a desire to embrace the unknown instead of fearing it. Digging deep, Sarah breathed out. In the flickering light of her desk lamp, shadows of her past clashed against the glow of a new possibility. She could not permit David and his legacy to dictate her future. The weight of his betrayal would no longer anchor her to fear and doubt. With newfound resolve, Sarah grabbed her phone and contemplated her next move. She could choose to face Jake, confide in him about the letter, the family secrets tied to David, and what it could mean for their future. The idea was both liberating and terrifying. Did she dare to risk the happiness she had found? As anxiety clawed at her insides, she focused her thoughts. She recalled the way Jake's laughter had resonated within her, the thrill of their shared dreams that connected them. Sarah realized that keeping the truth from him would only erect walls between them, distancing her from the genuine connection they had slowly built. If Jake truly cared for her, he deserved transparency, but what would she expose? The messy intertwining of David and her family? Her own failures? Would he still look at her with those warm, inviting eyes once he learned the complexities of her past? Timing her breath deliberately, Sarah pressed the call button, but her finger hovered. There was one thing she needed to ascertain before she spilled the depths of her heart. She had to confront her family's history first. Before revealing her vulnerability to Jake, Sarah needed clarity concerning her own past. Decision made, she sent a quick message to her sister, arranging a meetup to discuss their family's hidden truths. It was time to dig deeper into the roots of her entanglements. With her pulse throbbing loudly in her ears, Sarah dropped her phone on the desk and gazed out the window. The night sky twinkled with promise, yet the fear of the unknown tightened its grip on her thoughts. Was she brave enough to navigate this labyrinth of revelations, and what might she uncover? The moment had come to confront not only her family's history but her own feelings and aspirations. She had scratched the surface of understanding, but what lay beneath? The echo of her own heartbeat resonated along with her uncertainty, a stark reminder that confronting truth leads to liberation or even more confusion. As she shifted her focus inward, contemplating the revelations that awaited her, Sarah had one burning question: would the truth reunite or sever the bond she hoped to forge with Jake? The upcoming meeting with her sister filled Sarah with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Pacing the floor, she rehearsed what she might say, articulating thoughts that remained tangled in her mind. Every time she thought about the family history she had kept buried, anxiety ignited within her. What if her sister held answers she was unprepared to confront? As a trained nurse, Sarah understood the gravity of healthcare decisions, yet her family's emotional truths felt just as critical. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that played tricks on her perception. Sarah remembered how easily she could navigate the complexities of her patients' lives, diagnosing their ailments, offering care tailored to their needs. It was a skill embedded in her psyche, but how could she apply that to her own fragmented existence? Determined to make the most of their conversation, Sarah began drafting a list of questions in her mind. Why had their parents kept the secrets she sensed but never fully acknowledged? What was the real story behind David and the impact of his choices on her family? As she sat on the edge of her bed, she could feel the weight of her past pressing down like a heavy quilt, warm yet suffocating. When the text from her sister came in, a jolt of electricity surged through her. They had agreed to meet at a nearby cafe, a familiar setting imbued with childhood memories. It was a safe space, yet a place rife with the ghosts of their shared upbringing. She hoped this encounter would yield the clarity she craved. A part of her hesitated, faced with the prospect of unearthing buried family secrets. She couldn't shake the doubt that maybe some truths were better left undisturbed. Later that evening, Sarah arrived at the cafe, her heart pounding against her rib cage. The ambience was inviting, filled with gentle laughter and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. She spotted her sister, Mia, already seated at a small table by the window. The stark contrast between Mia's carefree demeanor and Sarah's inner turmoil could not have been more pronounced. "Hey, sis." Mia greeted brightly, oblivious to the chaos swirling in Sarah's mind. They both ordered their drinks, and as their cups clinked upon the table, Sarah knew this was the moment of truth. After a few minutes of casual conversation, Sarah felt a wave of courage washing over her. "Mia, there's something I need to talk about. It's about our family." Mia's expression shifted, a hint of wariness clouding her features. "Is it about David?" The raw edge of pain surfaced, but Sarah pressed on. "It is. I found a letter, one that changes everything I thought I understood about him and us. I need to know what you know. Why did Mom and Dad keep things a secret?" Mia hesitated, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I always thought we were protective of our family's history. But if you've uncovered something, maybe it's time we faced it together." The openness of her sister's response fueled Sarah with a sense of purpose, a burning desire to cut through the darkness that had shrouded their family for years. But as Mia began to speak, detailing whispers she had heard as a child, Sarah listened intently, her heart racing with the direction the conversation was taking. Every shared revelation pulled Sarah closer to both a deeper understanding and an overwhelming fear. Would these truths redefine who she was? Each word Mia spoke opened doors to memories long buried, and Sarah could feel her resolve strengthen even as uncertainty fluttered in her stomach. But just as the conversation intensified, Sarah's phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Jake. "Hey, can I call you? I need to talk." In that instant, the weight of the moment mushroomed, a pivotal intersection between the past and future. Would the unveiling of family secrets propel her into a new realm of honesty with Jake, or would it doom their budding relationship? As Sarah wrestled with the implications, she realized the time had come not just for ancestral revelations but for personal confrontation. Choices made tonight would echo far beyond the cafe walls as she took her first steps toward the truth. What awaited her on the other side of this experience? As soon as the words left Mia's lips, Sarah's mind spun into overdrive. Unraveling the secrets of their family felt like unraveling her very identity. The hidden elements of their past were no longer just stories, they were threads woven into the fabric of her existence. If what Mia shared proved to be true, how would that reshape her understanding of herself, her life choices, even her relationship dynamics, particularly with Jake? Sarah's thoughts spiraled back to her professional life, where decisions were made with clarity and precision. As a nurse, her loyalty was to the truth of her patients, guiding them toward healing. Navigating her family dynamics felt strikingly different. It was murky, filled with emotional barriers and unyielding fear. Yet perhaps, she mused, the structure she used at work could provide a framework for this personal conundrum. "I don't want to push you," Mia said cautiously, her voice threaded with concern. "But if you found something, maybe it's meant to be uncovered." Taking a deep breath, Sarah steeled herself. "What if I am not strong enough to handle what we find?" Mia reached across the table, laying a supportive hand on Sarah's. It was a simple contact, grounding amidst the looming havoc of their impending revelations. Strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about facing what breaks us, together. In that moment, Sarah recognized the familiar pang of fear that always accompanied growth. It encircled her like a dark cloud, yet infused within it was the promise of liberation. She needed to learn to confront her past, not just for herself, but for the relationships that mattered most: her sister, Jake, and the life she longed to build. "Tell me everything," Sarah urged, her voice steadying. "Starting with David. What do you know?" Mia sighed and leaned back, retreating into her thoughts. "Mom never talked about him, not really." The words tumbled out, but as Mia spoke, Sarah felt the weight of the truth coalescing into a palpable energy between them. "But I remember glimpses, moments taken from family anecdotes which felt more like patches sewn over deeper wounds. It wasn't until I was older that I understood. He didn't just leave, there were circumstances, choices that haunted him and us." As Mia continued, Sarah's apprehension began to shift, morphing into something akin to curiosity. With every revelation about David's choices, a series of mistakes, regrets, and heartbreak, Sarah felt pieces of an intricate puzzle falling into place. The foundation of their childhood memories contorted before her eyes, revealing specters she had been too young to notice at the time. The dialogue soon spiraled beyond David, unearthing discussions on their parents' marriage and emotional dynamics, which made Sarah question her own relationship with Jake. Had she been fooling herself? Were they simply rushing into a connection, blindingly unaware of the shadows cast by their families' histories? She envisioned the weight of those hidden truths pressing against them, creating fractures yet unexamined. A sudden vibrancy filled her spirit as pieces began to fit. She had faced crises in her career, dry moments where a life hung in the balance. The revelations about David hadn't just illuminated her family landscape, they ignited resilience inside her. "I can't pretend this doesn't matter," she declared, fueled by newfound courage. "I'll call Jake after this. I need to be honest with him, and with myself." Mia smiled, but there was a flicker of concern lingering in her eyes. "Just make sure you're ready for everything that honesty might unveil." As they finished their coffees, the evening deepening into twilight, Sarah found herself fixed on thoughts of Jake. She had moved from apprehension to determination. Yet, as the door of revelation opened, it also beckoned new uncertainties. Every answer would breed more questions, and she was aware that confronting Jake could lead places she was not prepared for. What if the secrets they uncovered traveled further than their parents? What if this process exposed cracks in her very foundation? With each step out of the cafe, she felt that she was not merely walking towards a conversation but standing at the edge of a precipice. Would she leap, or would the past hold her hostage, keeping the truth just out of reach? In the end, Sarah understood that it wasn't just revelations shaping her, but the choices she made in their wake that would determine her path forward. With her phone still buzzing in her pocket, illuminated by Jake's calling, she took a deep breath. It was time to call Jake and confront not just the truth, but the woman she needed to become for both him and herself. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped onto the sidewalk, each beat echoing the urgency of her decision. The city around her faded into a blurred background of sounds and colors, the buzz of life drowning in the gravity of her thoughts. She glanced at the phone in her hand, the screen lighting up with Jake's name. It was a lifeline, yet a noose tightening around her uncertainties. "You're ready. Just breathe," she whispered to herself, grappling with the fear that threatened to engulf her. Drawing on her nursing instincts, she visualized the procedure room, the sterile environment, the clarity of her role, and the triage of emotions conflicting within. In that structured space, she was decisive, a healer. Outside, she felt unmoored, a vessel tossed by the tide of her family's turbulent legacy. Taking a steadying breath, she pressed accept and put the phone to her ear. "Hi, Jake," she said, her voice betraying only a hint of the tumult roiling within. "Hey. Everything okay?" he replied, concern threading his tone. Sarah hesitated. The intimacy of his voice wrapped around her, but it also dug into her memory, unraveling thoughts of secrets and vulnerability. "I think we need to talk about us. Sure, what's on your mind?" A silence hovered, pregnant with expectation. It was the moment of truth. "Things are shifting for me. I've been digging into some family history," she began, trying to keep her voice level. "There are things you need to know about me and my past." She could almost hear Jake's brow furrow as he processed her words. "You're scaring me a little, Sarah." "What is it?" "It's complicated," she stammered, struggling to unearth her emotions, to excavate the truth from the rubble. "My sister told me about our father, David, and it's making me rethink everything, the way I see my life, my decisions, even us." He spoke softly, but the weight of his words thudded like a heavy stone. Do you think this will change how we are together? What we have?" Another hesitation. Sarah had to tread carefully. "I'm not sure. I just know that I can't keep pretending that my past doesn't matter." Not to you, not to myself. I need to confront it, and I need you to be a part of that. What does that mean for us? Jake's vulnerability echoed in her mind. It was like peering into an X-ray. She could see the fractures that had begun to form. Could she mend them, or were they destined to splinter further apart? I want to share this with you, Jake. I need your support as I figure it out. The admission felt liberating, yet terrifying. To lean on someone felt like both an embrace and a relinquishment of independence. But growth never came from comfort. Okay. I'm here for you. Let us meet. Just tell me when and where, he responded, and the resolve in his voice warmed the corners of Sarah's anxious heart. But as the conversation tapered off, doubts tightened again. Would revealing this personal journey deepen their bond, or drive a wedge between them? After hanging up, she walked briskly, the chill of the evening air igniting ideas, sparking plans. Each step toward her apartment became a countdown to a deeper understanding of herself and her relationships. Sarah reached her door and paused, the weight of her decisions pressing heavily on her shoulders. What would Jake think? Would he see her not just as the nurse, the caregiver, but as someone raw and bursting with hidden scars? She was on the brink of vulnerability, staring into the unknown. Finally entering her home, she was met with shadows of her past lingering like echoes in the quiet. The urge to drown her thoughts in routine kicked in. She scrambled to tidy her space, a frantic attempt to impose order over chaos. Cleaning felt not just like an act but a symbolic gesture of preparing for the emotional upheaval. As she poured herself a glass of water, Sarah considered the crossroads ahead. Digging up the past required not just honesty but bravery. What if amid the unearthing lurked revelations that shattered everything she believed about family, loyalty, and herself? Setting the glass down, her phone chimed again. Another message from Jake. He was eager, willing to understand, yet she sensed his apprehension lingering beneath the surface. Would he understand her need for clarity, or would he search for a way out? Scared of what the revelations might bring, with renewed determination, she tapped a reply, her pulse quickening as she realized it was not merely a message. It was a step toward confrontation, not just with him but with the things she had buried for too long. The shadows still loomed large, but she was ready to face them. A single thought pushed through the cacophony of her doubt: how would she keep moving forward without losing herself in the process? As she awaited Jake's response, stark images of her family's history flashed through her mind, intertwining with her aspirations for the future. The moment of truth beckoned, and Sarah felt the pull of fate tightens around her. What awaited her on the other side of this revelation? Would unraveling the past grant her freedom, or would it offer only chains? As morning broke, the early sun danced across the city skyline, casting a golden hue on Sarah's tense silhouette. She stood at the kitchen counter, eyes glazed over, contemplating the grains of coffee in her daily ritual, an insignificant part of ordinary life that suddenly felt loaded with significance. The enticing aroma hung heavily in the air, but it could not bridge the chasm yawning in her chest. She needed clarity before meeting Jake, and coffee alone wouldn't cut it. Taking a steadying breath, she grabbed her journal, an unsentimental witness to her inner world, and flicked through the pages filled with scripted confessions and dreams. These analog reflections served as both a comfort and a confrontation with her psyche, a way to unearth the truths she had shielded for so long. "Find your voice," she muttered, repeating her life's mantra. Today was the day to transform words on a page into actual conversation. But as she jotted down phrases regarding her past and her present feelings towards Jake, an unsettling reality invaded her mind. She was not merely revealing the story of her family, she was unearthing the brambles of her identity, a process that frightened her as much as it excited her. There was a delicate line between past and present, between who she used to be and who she aspired to become. The weight of her father's history pressed down, suffocating both hope and despair. What would Jake say when he learned about David's failures, the broken relationships, the darkness that shadowed their family name? Staring at her words, she felt a rush of defiance. This wasn't just about family secrets, it was about breaking cycles. Sarah's gaze flickered to the window, her thoughts anchored by the rhythm of the city waking around her. A hot cup of deep brew infused courage into her veins. She was no longer just the daughter of David, she was a capable nurse, a woman with her own dreams and aspirations, and a partner to Jake who deserved the entire tapestry of her being, dark threads and colorful stitches alike. Once her resolve crystallized, she hurriedly dressed, clothing herself not just in fabric but in intent. A tailored blouse and fitted trousers reflected the new resolve she felt within. This wasn't mere attire, it was a uniform of confrontation ready to tackle her feelings and memories head-on. The clock ticked rapidly, and as she approached the coffee shop where they had agreed to meet, Sarah's heart pounded erratically, an unsettling but invigorating signal that change was imminent. Every step felt calculated, a deliberate movement towards growth, yet anxiety twisted in her stomach. Each breath she took reminded her of the weight of her truth, and the important conversation she was about to initiate. Upon entering, the warm aroma enveloped her, comforting but charged with vulnerability. Sarah spotted Jake seated at a corner table, his posture betraying an eagerness mingled with unease. His easy smile tugged at something deep within her, a glimmer of hope wrapped in apprehension. "Hey," she greeted, her voice steadier than she felt inside. "Hey. You look nice," he responded, his gaze searching hers. They shared a brief moment before the gravity of the conversation loomed large between them. He gestured to the steaming cups before them, an icebreaker, but she could see threads of doubt beneath his casual demeanor. Taking her seat, she prepared to shatter the facade she had worn for years. She would let Jake in, black clouds and all. Words hung on the tip of her tongue, waiting for their moment to spill forth. Did he know how hard it was for her to strip back the layers of her well-crafted story? Did he understand, deep down, that seeing her in all her brokenness might be the most powerful act of intimacy? "Jake, she began, steeling herself against the storm of uncertainties. Her heart raced as a rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins. "There's something you need to know, not just about my past, but about my present too." He nodded attentively, his eyes filled with a mixture of concern and curiosity, and time seemed to stretch, pulling them both into a suspended existence. What lay ahead would alter the trajectory of their relationship, and Sarah was more aware of that than ever. "Today, I'm ready to confront my fears," she continued, bracing herself for the journey of unveiling her truth. "To ask you to stand by me as I forge a path toward understanding my identity." As she spoke, the words flowed with an intensity of emotion, weaving a narrative of liberation and vulnerability. The journey had just begun, but she felt the electricity of growth coursing through her. There was power in honesty, and perhaps, even in uncertainty. As Jake leaned closer, his expression transformed from concern to quiet resolve. Sarah sensed an awakening between them, a recognition that this was only the beginning of confronting not just the shadows of her past but the mantle of her future. What awaited them on this path of revelation and courage, and could the strength of their bond withstand the coming trials? The silence in the coffee shop was thick, pregnant with expectation. Sarah's heart fluttered, caught between the weight of her revelations and the fear of vulnerability. Jake's eyes held a softness that urged her on, yet she questioned whether it was enough to carry them through the tumultuous truths she was about to share. "Growing up, I had this picture of my future," she started, voice trembling slightly. "A little girl dreaming of chasing after every possibility, but then my father's failures painted a different picture." The words poured out, each syllable stripping away old fears like layers of paint being sanded down. "He taught me to hide our past, our shame." Jake nodded, his gaze unwavering, a steady anchor against the storm inside her. Still, doubts wormed into the crevasses of her thoughts. Would he recoil at the shadowy image of her family? Would he see her as a reflection of her father's mistakes? "David," she continued, tasting the name like bitter medicine. "He was charming and deeply flawed. His charisma masked a broken spirit, affecting everyone around him. I spent years trying to prove I wasn't like him, just to realize that those very efforts constricted my growth. It was suffocating." The shadows of their surroundings seemed to draw closer as she spoke. She took a deep breath, pushing forth with determination. There was liberation in recounting the past, but also fear of the unknown, how this revelation would shape the landscape of her life moving forward, especially in relation to Jake. "I'm afraid to be tied to that legacy," Sarah confessed, her voice stronger now, charged with her mounting resolve. "But I want to forge my own identity. I want you to see me, truly see me, all my complexities and the shadows that cling to me." As she lifted her gaze, she caught the flicker of understanding in Jake's eyes. "I want to stand by you, Sarah. I want to help you navigate this." His words, like a lifeline, reached deep into her resolve. Here he was, someone willing to share the burden of her past, unwilling to let her carry it alone. For a moment, both their worlds converged. "Understanding is one thing," she countered, testing the waters of their bond. "But do you think you can accept my fears and failures too?" "Absolutely," he said with a gentle firmness. "I mean, you've already accepted mine." Sarah's breath caught at the revelation. She remembered moments of vulnerability shared across both their paths, illuminating their truth as intricately as her own. The weight lessened, if only slightly. Still, she faced an internal struggle. "What happens if we revisit the past, and it's too dark for you to handle?" "I don't want to impose my shadows on you," she admitted, feeling the pull of sadness coupled with a flicker of hope. Jake leaned forward, earnest. "We can't predict the future, but I want to be here with you as you confront your history. This isn't just about your past, it's about who you are becoming. And I want to be a part of that." Their connection felt electric, swirling with a mix of promise and uncertainty. Sarah wanted to breathe life into the parts of herself she had nearly forgotten. She realized that fertility was not just for the soil, it was for her spirit as well. With Jake by her side, the potential for rebuilding herself, brick by brick, grew a little more tangible. "Let's take it slow," he proposed, surprising her with his grounded approach. "We'll face your fears together, navigate through the minefield of memories, and reshape our story." As the warmth of his presence seeped into her bones, Sarah felt a shift deep inside. Not only was she shedding the weight of her father's legacy, but she was also rediscovering strength she thought was buried beneath layers of self-doubt. It was exhilarating to not only embrace the uncertainty but to plan for it. "Together," she echoed, the word resonating with newfound power. Yet a ripple of dread still brewed beneath the surface. As they discussed the path ahead, shadows of the past lingered in the corners of her mind, ready to leap back into the light in ways she hadn't anticipated. In that moment, Sarah realized the gravity of what lay ahead. Could facing her fears unravel unexpected truths or reveal strengths she hadn't yet discovered? The journey had only just begun, but the anticipation of both liberation and confrontation electrified her. What would she find in the depths of her past, and how would it define her future with Jake? The answer hovered tantalizingly close, yet ominous, as the conversation evolved, twisting into uncharted territory. She sensed the pivotal choice was nearing, and as they continued to dig deeper into each other's vulnerabilities, the thread of tension tightened. Could they withstand the pressures that were beginning to unfold? The coffee shop's muted ambience receded into the background as Sarah became acutely aware of her surroundings, her senses heightened by the weight of their conversation. The ticking clock on the wall echoed the rhythm of her racing heart, underscoring the urgency of their situation. With each passing moment, she felt both liberated and terrified, the duality of her experience igniting a determination she hadn't fully embraced before. "Let's start by talking about the things that frighten you," Jake suggested, his voice coaxing yet steady. His suggestion was both a challenge and a lifeline, coaxing her to confront the murky waters of her past. Feeling both exposed and emboldened, Sarah nodded. "I think it's about vulnerability. I've spent so long building walls, convincing myself that strength meant silence. That if I appeared unbreakable, I'd be untouchable." She paused, catching her breath as she felt her emotions swell. "But the truth is, I'm tired of acting. That's what my father taught me, whether it was hiding him or concealing my fears. Why not let the walls come down?" he prompted, leaning in slightly. Her breath caught at his raw openness. It resonated deeply with the struggle brewing within her. for a moment, Sarah envisioned the fortifications she had built, not only around her heart but also around her ambitions. As she justified those barriers, the image of her father's disillusionment loomed, a dark reminder of what could happen if she allowed her true self to emerge. But there was power in unearthing the layers. Perhaps the act of dismantling them would reveal uncharted territories where she could thrive. Because it feels like giving up control, she admitted, her voice wavering with sincerity. Control has been my anchor, but what if I set sail into tumultuous waters? Jake reached out, his hand covering hers with a gentle reassurance. The sea can be frightening, but it can also lead to unimagined destinations. Isn't that worth the risk? In that pivotal moment, something clicked inside her. She had always played it safe, but the prospect of discovering what lay beyond her created a magnetic pull towards the unknown. Doubt still lingered, a means of self-preservation, but with Jake beside her, the walls she had erected began to feel more like self-imposed cages. As they navigated this conversation, Sarah could feel processing beneath the surface. She had not just inherited her father's faults, she had also absorbed lessons woven through the words of resilience and courage that her mother had scattered throughout their life together. A revelation dawned on her: perhaps it was time to turn those fragments into a new backbone, to construct an identity that didn't rely on her father's shadow. "I'm ready to confront my fears," she declared, feeling the strength coursing through her. "I want to embrace uncertainty, not just with you, but for myself." The confidence that bubbled up inside her shifted the atmosphere. Jake's face brightened, a mix of pride and admiration that ignited a warmth within her. "That's a monumental step, Sarah. I'm here, and together, we can explore those fears." But beneath her burgeoning determination, unaddressed questions simmered. Was confronting her father's legacy merely a beginning, or could it expose unhealed wounds? What awaited her in the depths? What if relinquishing control revealed parts of her that were fractured, too fragile to bear? Jake squeezed her hand and pulled her from her whirlpool of thoughts. "How do we proceed?" he asked softly, his commitment evident as he leaned into the conversation. "By carving our own path," Sarah responded, her voice steadier now. "Let us map out how to reunite the pieces of myself that need conquering. I need to know what I'm capable of. Let us reflect your journey in an honest light, exploring both the beauty and darkness," Jake suggested, his enthusiasm infectious, somehow lifting away remnants of her anxiety. With the warmth of those words, the weight felt a fraction lighter. Together, they could build a foundation rooted in trust and exploration. Yet, as she glanced out the window, the chill of autumn air whispered a warning, threading through her thoughts. What if facing her father's mistakes opened a floodgate she wasn't prepared to handle? Would the process pull her apart instead of piecing her together? As Sarah wrestled these concerns, she felt the looming shift of her reality, the acknowledgement of her tangled history leading her towards a pivotal moment of truth. The anticipated confrontation with her past was on the horizon, ready to test her resolve. What truths would her journey reveal? And would she like what she found? The tension coiled tighter within her, setting the stage for the fiery confrontation that could reshape everything she'd ever known. Sitting in the cafe, Sarah felt the echoes of their conversation reverberate within her, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee and the hushed whispers of patrons around her. Every sip she took seemed to awaken a part of her that had long been dormant. Vulnerability had always been the enemy, but now it stood before her like an ally, beckoning her to explore its depths. "What are some things you've avoided?" Jake proposed, the beginnings of a tactical plan forming in his words. "Identify them. Let us break them down." Focusing on her breathing, Sarah teased apart the threads of her avoidance. "I've always sidestepped my feelings about my father's choices. It's like that wound is wrapped in layers of indifferent bandages, and I've allowed it to fester, thinking I could neutralize its power." Jake's brow furrowed. "And what if you opened that wound? What might you find?" Her heart raced. The image of her father's disappointed gaze flared in her mind. Could she really face the chaos of her upbringing, the heartache of his downfall? It terrified her, yet within that fear, she felt a strange thrill of excitement. She closed her eyes, considering the notion, opening the wound could be the first step toward healing. There was a risk, yes, but perhaps within that risk lay her liberation. I guess I would find resentment, she admitted softly, and maybe some guilt for not having seen him as he truly was, a person instead of a failure. Then we need to summon that resentment, Jake encouraged, his tone steady. Use it to clarify your goals. What do you want for yourself that he never had? The question pierced through her defenses, provoking a surge of self-discovery. She thought of her ambitions, silenced for so long. I want to build a career that's my own, not just a pale reflection of what he couldn't accomplish. Her voice steadied, infused with a dangerous mix of anger and purpose. I want to be seen as Sarah, not just as his daughter. Then let us define that, he said. What does being Sarah mean to you? What does success look like outside that shadow? Taking a breath, Sarah envisioned a life unbound by expectations. She imagined herself in a vibrant office, surrounded by colleagues who respected her input, her voice not just heard but sought after. Clarity washed over her, and with it, she realized the only thing stopping her was her own reluctance to act. I need to create something tangible, she said, almost to herself. Perhaps it's time to start my own projects, something that reflects my beliefs and skills. Maybe even a platform where stories are told, helping others articulate their own journeys. Jake's eyes sparkled with encouragement. That's brilliant. You're recognizing your strengths and aspirations. Each action, no matter how small, is a step toward redefining yourself. The tension within her began to unwind. There was no roadmap, no clear pathway drawing her next steps. Just the vision of a canvas waiting to be filled with hues of hope, ambition, and authenticity, but lurking in her psyche was the question of whether she could take that leap. The fear of failure loomed. What if her father's legacy haunted her progress? Would she have the courage to confront not just her father's choices but her own insecurities as well? Let us reach out to a few connections in your field, Jake proposed, his sense of urgency palpable. Gather insights, understand the landscape. Build the foundation before you launch. Nodding, she felt a tentative determination settle in her chest. They could craft a plan, a stepping stone to reclaiming her narrative. Sarah also recognized that this plan would necessitate courage to confront not only her father's failures but also her expectations of success. It was a multifaceted battle, one she felt prepared to take on, but still, as they shared strategies and excitement buzzed between them, a nagging question lingered: was she ready for the potential fallout of confronting her past? The unfinished business with her father shadowed her steps, and each decision felt intertwined with a deeper reckoning. Together, we'll navigate this, Jake reassured her, his hand resting gently on her back. Just remind yourself this isn't just about confronting him. It's about finding you. With that message simmering in her mind, she resolved to take the first step towards her destiny. The battle ahead was daunting, yet the prospect held a glimmer of promise. What would it take to fully step into her new identity? And as the fear of the past loomed ever closer, was she prepared for the truths waiting just beyond it? Sarah walked into the hospital for her shift, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling her lungs as she navigated the familiar bustling halls. But today, with each step she took in her scrubs, she felt a surge of purpose and clarity. It had taken weeks of reflection, confrontations, and revelations, but she was finally ready to embrace who she truly was. She was no longer just the daughter of David, she was Sarah, the capable nurse, the passionate advocate for her patients. Her interactions with her patients were no longer colored by the shadows of her past but illuminated by a newfound confidence. Yesterday, she had taken the leap and scheduled a seminar for nursing students at her hospital, a chance to share not just her professional journey but the lessons she learned while overcoming her family history. This venture represented the blending of her career aspirations with her personal discoveries. The seminar day arrived, and as Sarah stood at the podium, facing a sea of eager young faces, she drew strength from the journey that had brought her here. She recalled her struggles with identity, the tangled web of her family background, and the burden of expectations. But instead of fear, enthusiasm radiated from her. She had a story to share that could inspire growth and resilience. The adrenaline coursing through her veins fueled her presentation. "You'll face challenges that test the boundaries of who you think you are," she began, her voice steady. "But remember, the only way to find your truth is to confront your past and embrace vulnerability." The audience's engagement reflected back to her the nodding heads, the brightened faces. After the presentation, Sarah was swarmed by students eager to learn more from her insights. It felt like an awakening, both for herself and those she was inspiring. She had transformed her pain into purpose, not just for her own healing but as a light for others navigating their shadows. As she signed off with a newfound resolve to mentor the next generation of nurses, she felt recognition wash over her. Her efforts culminated in something tangible, reclaiming her narrative while aiding others along the way. Later that day, Jake surprised her with a bouquet of flowers at the hospital, a spontaneous gesture of support as they headed to dinner. "I heard about the seminar. I'm so proud of you, Sarah," he said, admiration shining in his eyes. She smiled, warmth spreading through her. This affirmation from him felt like a validation of her journey. It was confirmation that their relationship had evolved from fragility to strength. They were no longer bound by the secrets of their pasts but rather united in a shared narrative of growth. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling that she was at the culmination of a chapter, both personally and professionally. "I couldn't have done it without your encouragement," she admitted. "You helped me face my fears instead of hiding from them." This whole experience had unveiled another layer of their relationship. They had stepped into a realm of vulnerability, exchanging stories not just about their failures but also about their dreams. She had learned that opening up to Jake about her past and facing the fragments of her family's narrative had fortified their bond rather than splinter it. As the sun dipped below the skyline, washing the city in hues of gold and purple, Sarah reveled in the realization of her transformation. She was no longer paralyzed by fear of repetition or failure. She actively embraced her identity, unbothered by the shadows that had once held her captive. A memory of her father fluttered through her mind, but this time, she held no bitterness. Instead, she felt forgiveness, freeing herself from the chains of resentment that had coiled around her heart for so long. The drive home felt light, and as they sat in the warm comfort of the car, Sarah turned to Jake. "You know, I think I want to start something bigger. A platform for people to share their stories, an initiative that connects voices and fosters healing," she shared, excitement bubbling in her tone. Jake's eyes lit up. "You're ready to take that step? That's incredible." She nodded, understanding that this was just the beginning of what she could accomplish. She felt a renewed sense of purpose merging with her professional expertise. The fear that had once choked her ambitions was replaced with determination. Through the blending of her personal revelations and professional growth, Sarah had achieved something significant. It wasn't just closure on a painful chapter but an ignition of a new narrative, one where she chose courage over fear, where she crafted her future, and where love thrived amid honesty and vulnerability. She had stepped into her identity, and it was a space she meticulously reclaimed. Now, as she looked ahead, she embraced the journey yet to come, a narrative unfolding with promise. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories flowing. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment below your reactions and theories about the ending. Together, let's build a community of resilience and growth.